Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program, and she is, in fact, your real estate voice. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. It does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, many people are not familiar with the role of an appraisal in the home sale process. When are appraisals needed? And, in fact, what is the purpose of them?
Well, Richard, that's true. A lot of the folks out there get it confused with an inspection. An inspection is a third party that comes in and goes over systems and makes sure your furnace is good and your electrical and plumbing and all that. An appraisal in general is an opinion of value. It's done by a licensed third party as opposed to inspections where the state has not given any kind of license to be an inspector, which is crazy. But that's the world we live in. But an appraisal is there for the buyer's loan. So if the buyer is paying cash, they don't need an appraisal unless they want one, but it's not required. However, if the buyer's getting a loan, this third party has to substantiate to the lender with an opinion of value as to whether or not the home is worth what the agreed upon sales price is and whether or not the home meets the loan guidelines. Now, some appraisers can ask for repairs in order to meet the loan guidelines. And there's different condition criteria set forth based on the type of loans that they're getting. As an example, if the borrower is getting an FHA or a VA loan, they're a little bit more stringent than, say, a conventional loan. And these are the things that we typically see appraisers request on an appraisal. If they'll go and they'll look at the home and they'll say, okay, it's worth the agreed upon sales price, but you've got peeling paint outside, even on a shed. They'll want that to be addressed. Doesn't matter the age of the home. We thought peeling paint, they were worried about lead-based paint, which was put in paint before 1978. However, any peeling paint, the VA and the FHA will tag it to be resolved. They also ask for broken windows, any kind of safety hazards like missing outlet covers or missing window well covers, especially if the window well is super, super deep and it's very easy for a kid playing outside or an animal to fall in it. They will also tag missing stair rails. And then for all types of loans, an appraiser will identify any obvious safety issues like trip hazards. Some of the things that could cause trip hazards are concrete. So a lot of walkways and stuff get wonky as, they move and all that because they're not really structural. They are poured just on the ground. Sometimes they move based on the watering. Sometimes they'll fracture. And if there is a trip hazard, you may have to resolve that to satisfy the appraiser. Now, they don't tag everything, so we never know when they're going to ask for repairs. Typically, it happens around or after when they complete their appraisal, which is pretty far in the process. So we've got the contract, then we do the inspection, then the appraisal comes. Now we're a week, 10 days prior to closing, and the appraiser comes back and says, oh, everything's good except you got to fix this issue or you got to put window well covers. I just sold a home just about a month ago in which the window well covers were on, but they were hammered by a recent hailstorm, and the appraiser required those to be done. I also had in a conventional appraisal one time asked the seller to correct a walkway that had become raised as a result of roots from an aspen tree growing underneath of it, causing the walkway to be a trip hazard. Now, here's the interesting part about these repair requests. If you read the contract carefully, it doesn't say in the contract who has to fix those items. The buyer needs to get them done in order to get their loan. So it could be another source of negotiation, just like inspection repairs. That's why you need a really good real estate agent, that's trained to negotiate and not just be a messenger. And why do home sellers care about appraisals anyway? It's for the buyer so they can get their loan. First of all, the buyer has an opportunity to terminate their contract if the appraisal comes in low, or even if the seller says, I'm not going to do these repairs, they could terminate their contract and get their earnest money back. Or they could ask the seller to lower the sales price. Now, once you have an agreement and we're moving towards the finish line of the closing, most home sellers in their mind or in their plans, they've already spent their net proceeds, right? They're going to buy their next home, whatever. They're going to pay off some debt. So nobody really wants the value of this appraisal walked backwards because it could really mess them up going forward. And I'll tell you a story about it shortly. And so sometimes some buyers and sellers will negotiate a number in the middle, and some buyers just say, I don't care. I'm going to bring the difference, or I have a bigger than what is needed down payment. So it doesn't matter if the appraisal came in low, it doesn't affect me. But this is really why it becomes an issue, is that it puts the whole transaction in doubt. Sellers are planning their move. They're already packing. The home is no longer show ready, right? And they could have already committed to a home in their destination. Maybe they locked their interest rate. Maybe they're under contract to buy their next home. And then, oops, nope, you're not going to get that money because the appraisal came in low. And then they might, worst case, have to go back on the market and find another buyer. So appraisals are really, really important. And it could be a huge issue if it goes south. It's kind of funny, Richard. I had a home seller. I remember this Memorial Day. I was sitting down with him. We had a bunch of offers, and I was explaining to him the process of, okay, we've got these 3 offers. We've got these top 2 that we're going to pick. And I said, this is how it goes, right? So we had a cash buyer in which you didn't have to have an appraisal. And we had a buyer getting a VA loan in which we had to prove the value of the agreed upon contract price to the appraiser, which was in doubt right out of the gate, right? That was one issue. The other issue was that, let's say he accepted the higher offer, which was the VA offer. Then they do their inspection. Then they ask for stuff. We get that worked out. And then another week later, we get an appraisal back that says, oh, I'm sorry, the home is not worth that much. I'm going to walk the price back down here, or the buyer has to come up with a difference in cash. And a lot of buyers don't want to come up with a difference in cash. So it presents another opportunity for the deal to fail later on in the process. It's a very disruptive, very upsetting to most home sellers. And when I explained this whole process to him, he's an ex-Marine, or was a Marine, still a Marine, I guess, always. And he goes, seems to me you're just wrestling around the mud until you finally get to closing. And I said, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happens, you know? So that is why when we work with sellers, we try to do everything we can to give them certainty that they know it's going to go through. That's why some sellers don't always take the highest offers. If the appraisal is in doubt, they may not take the highest offers because they don't want the price walked back down the road. And we'll help prepare sellers from the beginning. We'll look at similar sales. We'll do it when we get an offer, and we'll do it when the appraiser comes. And we also provide great information to appraisals to help them support the price. We're not supposed to influence them, but they don't know the history behind the home. They may not know what improvements that have been done. The number one question I get from appraisers is, hey, what are some recent improvements? What has been done recently in this home? Because that affects their opinion and value. And so there are some agents who will actually go in and make a stupid high offer just to get a contract, knowing full well that there's the potential for the appraiser to walk the price backwards. Honestly, I think that is unethical and unacceptable, but it happens sometimes. And you need a really good experienced agent that knows what they're doing, because nobody wants the deal to fall apart later into the process. And, in our office, we do property valuations for home sellers, hundreds of them every single year. And so we do this all the time. It's not like we're selling one or two homes a year. We're very familiar with this process. And we're going to talk about, when we come back, what can be done if the appraisal comes in low. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She is your real estate voice. She's also the host of the show and the proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And you can always reach her and her team at 719-301-3900. We're talking, Barb, about appraisal. So how do home sellers prevent or plan for appraisal challenges?
Well, if it does happen, Richard, first of all, don't panic. There's only the VA appraisal is the only one that you can actually challenge. The rest of them you cannot. So that means you got to hire an agent that up front knows how to help make sure that you are prepared going forward. I just recently had an appraisal come in low, and it was a lot low. And actually, the buyer wasn't planning on bringing a down payment. So it really put the deal in doubt way far into the transaction, really disruptive to the seller, which is not what we want to do. But with a VA appraisal, there's something called a reconsideration of value. There's a rule called a tidewater, in which the lender has to notify us if it came in low. And then we actually do, kind of like an appraisal, give them good information to help them support the value and go from there. It ended up working out great in that case, because the buyer was going to buy the home anyway, even if the appraisal came low. But some agents are not familiar with this. So in that experience, what happened is the agent just sent me the appraisal and said, "Hey, listing agent, what are you going to do about it?" And I'm like, well, first of all, the buyer is supposed to send a written objection, which they did not do. They had not objected. They just sent me the appraisal. And so I talked to the seller. She goes, "We're not lowering the price. It's not going to happen." Okay. So I let him know that. And I went to work and made sure that I supplied the documentation to support the value, and the home sale is going to go through just fine. That's why it's really, really important that you hire the right agent that understands all of these things and can help you solve these problems during the home sale process. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
I'm Richard Randall, sitting in with Barb Schlinker. She's the host and is the agent who can help you with great homework on pricing to get the top dollar. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She is your real estate voice and the proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Thinking of making that move? Again, just call Barb and her team at 719-301-3900 or visit the website, barbhasthebuyers.com. Again, barbhasthebuyers.com, 719-301-3900. Short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing pricing your home to command top dollar plus Barb's hot new listings. You do not want to miss them.